Twyla is freaking nuts. I saw some thumbnails and some people talking on Discord being surprised at how good she is. We've been saying this from the start, guys, that she had the potential to be the single best boss damage DPS in the entire game. Damage DPS, that's kind of redundant. She probably is. She probably is. So in this run I just did, and I'll take you through it in this video. This is going to be an official guide on Twyla. She is unbelievable. In this run, all these heroes, every single hero I use is at A0. When it comes to artifact, Twyla is in a maxed out Wailing Skull. She does not yet have an exclusive. She's going up against these three other Nightmare units. When these guys have their awakenings, they are the three best DPS in the entire game. It's these three and Praetus, but on the very top comps, you'll see these three coming in at number 1, number 2, and number 3. All of them are running plus 25 maxed out exclusive artifacts. These two over here are getting direct benefits from their bond skill. Twyla is not getting any benefit in this fight from her bond skill. And then, yeah, Kagiri's, he doesn't have a bond yet. But this is crazy, right? This was an 80K plus run. Unfortunately, because I wanted to run this direct comparison between these four, we only ran 2 healers. I'm not really counting Carnelian, so healing became an issue. But for pure DPS, you can see this chick is an utter freak. And as I'll explain in the video, you only need 1 awakening to take this damage to an entirely new level. Not like Arrogance, who needs 5 awakenings, not like Lust, who needs 5 awakenings, not like Kagiri. By the way, Lust and Kagiri, both exclusive 250 limited once in a blue moon kind of heroes. Kagiri, who needs minimum A3, and then for the wacky numbers, a full A5. At A1, you're getting a full potential look. That will be a separate video. We'll probably do Guild Boss 1, A0 versus A1. I think it's a great source of comparison for Twyla. This video is going to be focused on her kit, her abilities, and how amazing she is in this Guild Boss 2 showcase, where you can see very respectable 84K with just pure Nightmare DPS. Twyla is someone every single player should be pulling for. Let's get into it.
Fastidious.
Fastidious.
All right, let's discuss 2 specific things right off the bat. The first one's going to be her bond skill with Hex. This is super powerful if you have Hex and you are deploying them together. Otherwise, it kind of just is what it is. If you are not using Hex in the comp, she only gets the benefit of the first half of this bond skill. Reduces her first deployment cost by 6. For people that are not yet in like the end game or the later part of the game, this can help because you'll probably use Twyla everywhere because her DPS is so crazy. But later on, I do think she's going to just carve out her niche as like a boss specialist. Maybe there'll be other content to come that she can shine in. So that deployment cost reduction doesn't really matter except for in arena, obviously. So it's like arena and then progression stuff. The second thing is phenomenal. If you have Hex, it does not take him long, especially with his exclusive artifact, though you do not need it, to draw 12 cards. By the end of that, she has a permanent increase of 60% crit damage. That's so substantial. That's so much. That is almost a maxed out piece over here with crit damage, right? So this is obviously a premium piece, so it's 72%. If we find a non-premium piece like this, you can see it's 66%. So this is 10/11ths of the potency of her running a 4th main stat piece with crit damage. That is super powerful. However, for a lot of content, because everything in the whole world is about Nightmare, this is transitioning to my second point, you might not be running her with Hex. I could totally see her and Hex teaming up to be a freakishly good single target arena duo, but for a lot of boss stuff, aside from Guild Boss 1, for Guild Boss 2, there will be comps, but in general, I wish this did lack the contingency of also deploying Hex to really make it worthwhile. Compare that to Arrogance, who you'll see in this battle. It is totally simple. Once Lust is owned, you don't need to bring her in the team, you don't need to deploy her, even though in this example we do both. He gets a full 15% post-deployment attack boost during his ultimate. That's where all the big damage comes from. It's pretty nuts. I will say, it's hard to complain about her bond skill not being that good or that flexible because the rest of the kit is so ridiculous, as we were about to discuss. The other thing, though, I mentioned, she's just another freakish Nightmare unit. I implore, and that's why I'm putting this at the beginning of the video, I implore you, Moonton, and guys, if you want to make some noise, go on their official Discord, get in the comments, make suggestions. She should be another faction or have dual faction. Look at everything, every new hero, every big thing is just Nightmare, 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 Nightmare. Kagiri, at least he has the dual faction and Watcher. It makes him really cool, but another top Nightmare fighter. Arrogance has always been. Lust, she obviously was an older exclusive, but she just had a rerun. She is Nightmare, and now Twyla is Nightmare. If you want to make her really viable with Hex, give her dual faction membership in Infernal. Like, just do it. Like, make her more interesting, or at least pierce her somehow. I don't know what about this would be pierce her, but to make her work with Hex. Her just being another goated, super OP Nightmare fighter is cool, but it's also insanely boring. It's really uninspired. Moonton, you made a choice to make a game where factions are so important, which is really cool, I think, and having these lords, but you keep double, tripling down on the same couple factions and making it all about the same few lords. If you didn't think Torador was important already, he sure is now, because Twyla with the chance for extra basic attacks is beyond freakish. Why is that? Let's talk about the kit. We don't have to look very far. It's right here in the talent. Each basic attack launch, so any basic attack that she performs, and by the way, with Torador and his Lord skill, all the allies, when they do a basic attack, there's now a 30% chance of landing an extra one, so it's going to give a lot more opportunities to trigger the effect we're about to discuss. Every time she has the basic attack, it starts with a 25% chance to trigger Deranged Blade. Her whole kit is built around Deranged Blade. It's ridiculous. So she deals 20% damage 12 times, which may not sound like that much, but this triggers constantly. That's 240% damage as a baseline. As we'll see, it can get a lot higher, and those hits inflict bleed for 5 seconds. This triggers enough that she has very, very high uptime on bleed, which is a brilliant damage over time effect. Essentially, it's 1% true damage based off of the target's max HP, but also very importantly, it leads to 10% increased physical damage. So when you're running Twyla on a nice physical damage based team, like this Nightmare comp over here, you can see these top 4 guys at the top with Torador. It's pretty nutty because it also does stack with physical damage vulnerability if you use her in other kind of comps. It's very, very, very good. On top of that, as I said, it gets better and better. Every time you cast her ult, this 25% chance to trigger the Deranged Blade increases by 5%. This can happen 3 times. So after you have triggered the ult for the 3rd time, she now permanently will have an increase of 15% to trigger the Deranged Blade on the basics, which brings it up to a 40% chance. So 4 out of 10 times, nearly a coin flip, she's doing not just her basic attack, right? Because it's additional. She's not just doing the 120% damage, physical damage to one enemy. She will also be coming at it with the 12x 20% damage. We just showed you the basic attack over here. We went over the bond skill. Let's get right into the ultimate because it does play directly into her basic attacks and her Deranged Blade. Her ult is very cheap at max skill ups, only 600 costs. Nice initial cost too for PvP stuff where you really want her to shine. It lasts for 20 seconds. When you activate this, it increases all her damage by 50%. This includes her basic attacks. This includes her Deranged Blade, everything you want. And it reduces her attack interval by 20%. If we go to base stats, this is a nice time to take a look over here. She's exceptionally high attack. It seems every new fighter is getting attack over 6,000. Very comparable to Kagiri, 6376. Is it actually like the same as Kagiri? Let's take a peek. Kagiri is 94 higher. All right, so it's pretty darn close. But very, very high attack. We all see how good Kagiri is. She comes in at only 17 costs. And then it's not showing us here, but if I go to the gear, and by the way, in this comp, we're on the test server, everyone has brilliant gear. You will see her base interval very typical at 2.6 seconds. However, during that ultimate, to get back to the skills, now whatever attack interval you built onto her, so let's say you got her nice and quick, you got her to a 1.5 second attack interval, that wouldn't even be that hard. It is then reduced by 20%, so it would go down to 1.2 seconds. Very, very fast. It also grants Deranged Blade an extra 6 instances of damage. I told you that damage would be going up, so instead of being 12x on the 20% damage, it's now 18x. This whole thing lasts for 20 seconds. Additionally, it's going to deal 200% damage 2 times to one enemy immediately. So it's pretty wild, right? She keeps basic attacking. She keeps getting her chances to do Deranged Blade. When it happens, it's 1.5 times more attacks from 12 to 18. And on top of that, at the start of this ultimate, she gets double damage of 400%. The whole duration, there's increased damage. The whole duration, there's a reduction in the attack interval. It's a very, very, very strong ultimate when it comes to just extremely punishing single target damage. Let's go to the passives now. Symphony of Ruin. So this is key for any content which is not boss content, where she's not hitting the same thing all the time over and over when things are coming in and out of range. After not dealing damage for 2 seconds, increases rage regen auto by 20. This is her passive rage regeneration per second, so 20 extra points towards her ult cost. This effect is removed upon dealing damage. It starts at an increase of 10 rage regen auto. With skill ups, it goes to 20. Basically, with such a low skill cost in content like campaign, like Void Rift, where she's going to be phenomenal. She's such ridiculous single target damage. The one knock against her is the single tile range, which is disappointing, but the rest of the kit's so crazy it doesn't really matter. When she goes any little period, 2 seconds or more, without taking damage, she's going to start building rage passively incredibly quickly. So you can cycle this super duper fast. The final passive, and this is really what makes her the GOAT, at least darn close to the GOAT for dealing damage, in particular against bosses. Each time from her passive, Bloody Reprisal, each time the ultimate is triggered, grants an extra 10% defense penetration during the next ultimate. This stacks over 8 ultimates. 8 ultimates, which is really long. It's not a lot of content, you'll trigger 8 ultimates. However, she has such a low ult cost. When she is in content where she's not hitting the same thing over and over, she has such nice passive generation. And then the really key thing is the place where she's the superstar, as you're going to see in this showcase, Guild Boss 2, the fight is really, really long. So she actually quite quickly does get 8 ults off, and then she's ignoring 80% of defense. So she's doing all these instances of damage. She's putting out bleed to lead to increased physical damage, and then the deeper into the fight you get, the better she is. So actually the numbers you guys saw at the beginning where she's just beating out Arrogance, if I did a proper comp, and I'm happy to show this off in another video where we brought more healing, more support, honestly, we take an Arrogance or a Lust out of the comp, run a Twyla, Kagiri, and one of those guys, and really just let the comp go for a while, the distance between her and the other DPS grows wider and wider and wider because she has a longer period of time where she's ignoring literally 4/5 of enemy defense. For newer, harder content, they just keep making it harder by making the magic resistance and making the defense higher on the bosses, on the enemy targets. She just shreds through it. It's such crazy amount of penetration. It's really, really, really good. That's Twyla's kit. As you guys can see, it's not actually as complicated as it may seem at first. Like I said, I'd give you a little teaser of the Awakenings, but I do think I'm doing an entirely separate video showing her off in Guild Boss 1 in the Drake and showing her A0 versus A1. So why do I say her A1 is so good? You know, a lot of these guys, let's go to Kagiri, need something like an A3, where you get these 10-second periods after his sweeping strikes and ember strikes with big damage boosts. And the damage boosts are very nice, right? But that takes getting a limited hero, 250 guaranteed, pulling him 4 times. Or you pulled him once now, you have to wait for the banner to come back, you get 3 more copies. Or you use your unpolished soul stones. There are ways to do it, but it's very high effort, takes a lot of luck, a lot of planning, a big resource investment, and like a big chunk of your in-game energy and planning going towards one character. Then at A5, Kagiri is ridiculous because all the time he's getting double hitters on his strikes. But at that point, we're talking about 6 copies of this limited hero or a bunch of unpolished soul stones. With Twyla, really, she's got a good A3 here. You're going to see very good. She's got a good A5 that's a little niche, but for especially non-boss content, it's very cool. But her A1 already right out of the bag, just get a second copy. This A1 is nuts. After you've triggered the ultimate 4 times, so it's for longer battles, right? Areas of the game where you have a lot of time to get a lot of ults off. After she's done it 4 times, it's going to increase every single instance of damage during Deranged Blade to 30%. So from 20% to 30%. That is just a 50% damage increase on the key source of all her damage, right? It's as simple as that. This goes from 20% damage 12 times, this is when she's not ulting, so that's 240% damage, to 30% 12 times. So that's 360% damage. So you're increasing from 240% damage every single trigger of Deranged Blade to 360. That is a 50% damage boost, 1.5x multiplier. That is so crazy because, again, remember, once you've triggered the ultimate 3 times, this is happening 4 out of every 10 basic attacks. You were doing a basic attack and then a Deranged Blade trigger. So now 40% of the time when you're hitting that, you're getting the 50% boost. It's pretty darn nuts. This is even stronger, right, during the ultimate when it's 18 instances of damage. So if we think about it, 20 times 18 is 360%, as opposed to 30% damage times 18, which is going to be 540%, right? That math's 540% damage. So good. And you can really get it. She's coming on Raid Up, not this weekend, the weekend after, alongside Hex, who's another borderline triple S unit in this game. Completely incredible. So go nuts on the banner. I'm going to pull 1,000 times on this banner. I'm not exaggerating. I'm doing 1,000 summons on this banner. You can get that second copy. It takes her from phenomenal, as you just saw, she was still the top DPS at A0 compared to all these guys, to boom, like superstar triple S heights, and it does not require the luck and the investment of these other guys that need many, many, many awakenings. The A2, very nice, brings her attack to like 66, 76, I believe it is, super high. A3, the ult, I really like this. Duration is increased by 5 seconds, so the whole fun thing, the 18 hits instead of 12 hits, the 50% damage boost, which by the way is a different damage boost, right? This is the damage boost I'm talking about from the A1 is to the deranged blade. This is bringing, it's like 1.5 times is my point. This 20% is increased by 50% of 20%, so 10% to 30%. We're here during the ultimate, it's 5 more seconds of the 18 hits. When you're doing it, after all the boosts, it's another 15% damage boost, the reduced attack interval, the extra instances of damage, which I guess are just a singular moment. But 5 seconds more of the first few things I said is phenomenal. Very good. The A4, more penetration. So with this A4, right, if you have her A4 after her 8th ultimate, she is now only having to deal with 12% of the enemy's defense. Simple as that. She ignores 80% from her passive, from her last passive. Here's an additional 8% base. So it's just, there's almost no amount of defense you could build on a unit that's reasonable within this game that she wouldn't be able to shred through. A5 now, upon taking fatal damage for the first time, she gets 6 seconds of immunity and increases her damage by 100%. So this is really nice in content where she needs a quick save. She gets a nice boost. Very, very, very good for Arena. Very good for Guild Wars. The place I see her struggling in Guild Wars, there's a reason I haven't mentioned it yet. The one tile of range, it's going to need a certain kind of map. She's going to be vulnerable to bomb strats, scored strats. I actually know something about Guild Wars now. It's kind of weird to say. But there's viability here. And with this A5, pretty exciting. She's just going to delete people. I see this mostly as an arena thing and then a progression thing, or maybe some content yet to come. So Twyla is completely nuts. She is phenomenal. I think I've done a good job breaking her down. From all my experimenting, it does seem the deranged blade damage is not affected by Infernal Roar. So for endgame stuff, it's very clear. The 2 sets you need on her, number 1 choice by a mile is Soulbound Arcana, and then the next choice would be Ageless Wrath. I think that's pretty clear cut. You guys can test more once you get her with Infernal Roar, but everything I can tell, she's performing far better in Soulbound Arcana. So I absolutely think that the Deranged Blade, which is a huge source of her damage, is not getting the basic attack boost, which does make sense. But a lot of things in this game are wonky, so I had to test it. So let's talk about gearing. On the right side, I really do think by far the top choice is Soulbound Arcana. Then, if you want to stay with your T2 stuff, your premium stuff, Hell's Lament still sucks, but Ageless Wrath is quite good. So that'd be the second choice. If we're talking basic sets, Wisdom would be her best set, followed by Night Terror. Those are very good options. For the left side, because she has such high base attack, I really encourage you to use Warlord or Calamity. Obviously, if you want to go with another set, the next choice would be Wicked Vengeance, then Annihilating Might. There is an argument, perhaps, for Whirlwind, just getting her going very fast, just to get more opportunities to trigger those basic attacks. But running her in a Nightmare comp, even with a Wrath, you increase the attack speed with each deployment up to 35% post-deployment attack speed boosts. I think it is sufficient, even just running her like this, 300 plus attack speed. I would think the sweet spot is like 350 to 400, 425. You can see I'm slightly slower than I wanted. All the other stats, though, are kind of perfection. This is the test server. I can re-roll my gear. I make it all beautiful. If you don't believe me, I'll show you very quickly. All of the heroes have gear like this. I tried to give them all very comparable stuff. A singular exception would be like Kagiri. I made him a little faster because I really wanted him to shine, and I really think you need Kagiri over 400 speed. But Arrogance, this gear is completely comparable to Twyla. And then you'll see Lust, the exact same kind of story. We're just using Infernal Roar because that's a great set for Lust. So going back to Twyla, we can see the final stats I put on her, 24,200 attack. You guys can see that is borderline overkill attack. Obviously, you kind of can't have too much, but I would say if I wanted to min-max this, I probably would put her in a second crit damage piece on the right. I went for 2 attack bonus, 1 crit damage, but I just think because that's how most people will build her. But if you have gear this good, I actually think you can get away even in something with super high defense like Guild Boss 2 with 2 crit damage pieces, and that is because she shreds so much defense. I'm sure builds will come out with amazing gear where people run her with 2 crit damage pieces or even 3. and the numbers are just ridiculous. This build is extremely good. I actually still would describe it as suboptimal. HP through the moon, I didn't even mention it, but her base HP is insanely high, over 28,000. That's really good. Base defense is solid, magic resistance is bad, but that's typical of like every nightmare fighter. And yeah, we got her down to 1.5 seconds, just like I said. So during her ultimate, we reduced this by 20% down to 1.2. We like it. 337 attack speed. She's crit capped at 339.5% crit damage. I would actually love to run her in a build where I'm over 400% crit damage, and then we've got the attack at like 19k or something. I think that would be perfection. Maybe I'll show, you know what? I'll show that to you guys when I do the Guild Boss 1 video in a day or two, when we do those awakening comparisons, and you'll really get to see her. All right, artifacts. I know I forgot to do this in my constants video. I'm not going to forget now. Wailing Skull obviously is the way to go. She does not yet have an exclusive. I hope she gets one, because she's going to be a lot of people's favorite character. I think she's a lot of fun to use. She's completely and utterly overpowered, but she has such high base stats that Wailing Skull is a great choice, right? It inherits at max level 150% of the hero's attributes, so she's got really nice base attributes. This is phenomenal. With only one tile of range, obviously she's not going to be a good candidate for Void Gazer, or it's called Realm Tear now. I always mess that up. Eye of Sin, she does only single target damage, so this is a poor choice. In content where you want her tanking, which is going to be possible because her HP is so high, Lunacy Visor is a very solid choice. And then I'd finally say she doesn't inflict any damage to herself or anything like that, so Frigid Flame can be really good as well, but that would really be for like Guild Boss 1 or something where you're not attacked a lot. Because for other stuff, unless you can put her off to the side, she's gonna probably be the one tanking the damage, since she only has one tile of range. If we're talking about basic artifacts, so looking at our legendaries, by a mile, the Watchguard's Ambition is her best choice. Her basic attacks are the source of triggering her deranged blade. That is the huge source of her damage. This gives her a 15% chance at max, 10% at base chance of triggering another basic attack. So this is what everybody should be using if you are not going to use one of these premium pieces, one of these mythic pieces. I will say another solid choice if you're very early on is Keen Wisdom. Get this thing built up. I'm sure there'll be an ally within 2 tiles. She has such high base attack that 16% attack boost post deployment is a very, very, very good thing. Let me quickly click through now all of the units we're bringing into battle, just so you can see. You can pause it and look at those base stats. It's these 5 Nightmare units. Then we have got over here Alistair coming into the fray. I had to put a lot of HP on him. He's got an HP bonus main because he was dying. Very ineffective comp. I would not directly copy my comp here. Obviously the damage is going to be good, but the gear and the artifacts and the heroes are phenomenal. Key thing is there's not enough support. You know, we would need a Baroque here and there for some damage mitigation, or a third healer. Very likely I'd just go for a third healer like Leia. You know, take out Lust, put in Leia. I think that could work really well. Maybe take out Arrogance, put in Leia. That's what I would lean towards. But you can see that is Alistair. Then we've got Constance, very traditional build here, since she's not tanking, Torador is. Then our last 2, we've got our healers coming in with Fasti over here. Had to run a lot of HP on him as well. Hard to keep these guys alive without a healer, or with only 2 healers, which is crazy how much support you need. And then finally, we've got Carnelian. And Carnelian's there just to get us through the Death Saw and give us some more death blocks, essentially. So without further ado, let's head into Guild Boss 2. Let's head into battle. I'm going to press auto fight just so it does the placements and the invigoration for me. Then we'll resume the battle. I probably will just show the whole battle, and maybe I won't. We'll see how long this takes. Let me make a note of the time. If it's under 15 minutes, which actually I don't think it will be. Otherwise, I'll probably fast forward. Maybe I'll show you the first 2 cycles, and then we'll go to the end. Now that I say it, that's what we're going to do. Ooh, I interrupted too soon. All right, there we go. There are all our placements. We have 4 Invig sets on Constance, on Carnelian, on Elowen, and finally on Fasti. So you can see those went to Lust, to Higiri, to Twyla, and over here to the boy Arrogance. Very important, because that's the comparison I want to make here between those 4 guys. Let's head into battle. Beginning doesn't matter. Key thing with Twyla is she cycles super fast. I'll actually trigger her once right now just so you can see. It does last a while. It's a 20-second duration, but as soon as it's done, she only needs to build 600 rage cost. So you're going to see getting her in sync like with Constance is a slight difficulty. But look at that. She's already almost ready to go again. I'm kind of just not caring about this beginning part because we don't want to waste any of our damage on the in-between. But you can see I knew she'd already be ready to go again. So here we go. Throw us on 1x. Let's get some damage going. Trigger, trigger, trigger. Higiri is always annoying on the in-betweens for the trigger since he's not going to get hit. But, you know, it is what it is. Also, big shout out to Fabu, aka Jet, who I'm actually going to be featuring in a video next week, who actually has the #1 score in all the realm for Guild Boss 2. And I was asking him for opinions on placement and how to best showcase this. We kind of were both frustrated knowing that this super DPS heavy comp was suboptimal. But I made it clear to him, and we both agreed we wanted to show off that comparison between Kagiri, Arrogance, Lust, and Twyla. So we had to go this way. But again, if you guys want to see a video where I do, you know, way over 120, just let me know and we'll get a more optimal comp going. But that's not really the point of this. The point of this is just to show you she's a little freak. I will say, if you're trying to get your damage revving as much as possible, with Twyla, you know, maybe you're eyeing some harder Aegis or stuff later on in the battle. At the beginning, it doesn't matter that much your damage. It's more about saving for the in-betweens. I would say just hammer Twyla's ult right away every time. Just because the sooner you get those 8 ults done, the sooner you're ignoring 80% of all defense. You'll notice the difference. I'll pull the stats up all the time too. Twyla, this is not a great representation because she's the one that ulted, not Arrogance is on auto. I'm manually using Twyla. You'll see how it looks by the end of the fight. Let's not do another big blast here. Trigger, 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 trigger. At the beginning, I like using Kagiri just to make sure he's doing it when Lust is ulting and when Constance is going to improve the Sinful Lashes, since we're using him as a Nightmare unit. But later on, very fun to use Kagiri. You can see he's the one in the top right corner here, so he's not consistently in Eloin's range. He is consistently in Fairseas. I do like using Kagiri's parry mechanic to avoid just taking a ton of damage, because when he's in that parry stance, that sheath stance, he essentially it's a damage block. Let's trigger some guys. Yeah, we're just going to do the first 2 cycles so you get how this works. You know what actually we're going to do that's going to be even better? This second cycle is going to be just as easy basically as this first cycle. We're going to skip the second cycle now. We'll pick it up on the 3rd and 4th cycles. That's when it will be interesting. So let me get through this. I'll see you guys in a minute. We'll just fast forward. All right, that's the end of the second cycle. I'm actually going to skip the 3rd cycle for you guys too, because these guys are so OP, it's not even that interesting. So we'll pick it up at the 4th cycle. We'll get that full one hopefully in a bit more. So see you in a sec. So unfortunate thing just happened there. Kagiri did his passive and got out of Eloin's range. So that's very frustrating. So Kagiri is going to die. Shouldn't mess up our results too much. We're going to take this end really slow now to give him some time to revive. That's very much too bad though. It's a possibility I triggered him too early, but I don't think I did. 30 more seconds till Kagiri. All right, so this is the 4th cycle now. So you can see at this point we've gotten 4 ults up with Twyla, and she just shreds, especially during the Aegis stage. You'll notice this, even though there's not that many stacks anymore because of all the new changes. If they had not patched it, that these Aegis buffs were getting permanently removed, she would be the total goddess. Instead, she's just very, very good, but that's just not as needed anymore as it was before. Let's get ready with Carnelian. Okay, we can get Kagiri back. Hopefully he gets a dot soon. Otherwise, we'll just time out his damage dodge. So hopefully that probably lost Kagiri maybe 5 million damage or something, so we can fold that into the end of the fight when we make that consideration. Holding a lot of ults here. We want to line it back up. Once Twyla and Constance are ready. Oh, let's get Kagiri. Cornelian. All right, yeah, he got the dot anyway, but you can see we avoided all the damage with Kagiri because I was in that parry stance. Kind of annoying with timing out the Kagiri ult, which maybe I did mess up. We'll see when I watch it back. And also his random passives. I guess it's not that random. Once you get the speed down, it's maybe like every 24 seconds, but it's hard to keep track of that properly. And he can push himself out of element range, which is very, very, very annoying. I wonder almost if there's a strat to like point him downward, because he still would be hitting. I think that's probably what I should have done. I think then he never would leave element range. Let me know if you guys think that would work. I can definitely test that out. But if he was pointing down, he's still swiping down into this big range of Semrah. And he would be down here, so Ellen would still be covering him with that. Yeah, I think so. All right, let's get some stuff going. We need Carnelian to come back. Let's get Kagiri for the dodge again. Everyone has dots anyway. Yeah, let's get her going. Come on. We get all our dots back. Shouldn't really matter though. Let's go. And now we got to focus. You can see Twyla came in at #1 there again. She's been #1 then at the end of almost every round. It's pretty wild. She only gets better as the fight goes on too. Like the damage escalation as you trigger those ults and start ignoring more and more stuff is crazy. It really is crazy. Just use Kagiri now. We can't line that one up. Kagiri is incredible too. You'll never see more than one Aegis buff. It's just phenomenal. He unlocks these comps. He unlocks being able to use Lucius as a DPS, as you'll see in a video on my account I'll put out later in the week. We're looking good on all our dots and everything. Just gotta line up these ults. We'll get through this. It does kind of fall apart for me on the next poison, as you're gonna see, just because it's with only the 2 healers, we kind of can't keep pace, and also the issues that I'm constantly having with Kagiri. Too late. We got this pretty darn handily though, which is good. See, Twyla's like almost ready, back up by the end of this as well. I won't use anyone else now. Just wait. Fury. Okay, trigger. That lined up pretty good. All right, now I gotta focus. Got the full cleanse there. See, it's pretty frustrating to me there that Kagiri still gets hit with the poison. I guess it's a continuous poison thing, but he's going to really start taking a beating now. I used Fasti too early as well, so that's going to hurt us, and Kagiri is going to die. His dot saved him. Let's see. Come on, Ellen. Not going to waste Fasti. Survive. Okay, we did. Alright, we should be able to bust through this actually, so handled that pretty well. I might have been screwed by some of that Kagiri RNG on my most recent test run. Let's wait here. Alright, trigger. Wait for the Cyclops. It's still looking hairy. Trigger. Okay, we should make it through this. Nice. Okay, so this is actually going to be the perfect timing. We're getting the best run at the right time. Kagiri was out of range of Eloin there. What else is new? I think the pointing Kagiri down thing that's the truth. Let me know if anyone's tried that already. Otherwise, I'm going to get tested on that ASAP. This annoys me a lot. That was a bad use of Carnelian. I should have waited. We do have our dots though, so hopefully we can come back in time because our healing is so bad. We'll see. Should I go for this cleanse now? I don't think I can. Carnelian's not going to be ready, though. Not going to be the best. Don't wipe me. Okay, we held on. Now we can... Carnelian. All right, now we can do this. Okay, I think we're going to tear through this, too. So maybe we'll get a nice little 100K here. That'd be really nice for the video, wouldn't it? Carnelian, are you going to come back around in time? Kagiri, CC, nice dodge. Okay, Fasti drops. The whole run's gonna fall apart. Can we at least make it through this? Carnelian drops. It's pretty tough stuff. So now we're just kind of, we're missing a ton of dots as well. So the whole thing's going to fall apart. Maybe we'll make it to the end of this. Twyla, we still got a lot of our DPS out there. Actually, all our DPS is out there still. So let's make it through this. Come on, guys. And then we're going to fall apart on the Aegis, but we're going to have a really nice source of comparison. Look at Twyla, 27 million again. Again. Beautiful stuff. Let's break that 100K, baby. So yeah, let me know in the comments, guys, how excited you are for Twyla. Now that we know Bubba's not coming soon, this already has been true, but after the past several, I've been doing this for like 4 straight hours now. I've only fallen deeper in love with her. She's very cool. Gonna be very fun for a lot of people to use. What did I mess up with my element here? Oh, here. There we go. Let's get some damage reductions. The DPS is going to slow us down here if we can't line it all up. So I'm going to wait for Constance to be with Twyla. Yeah, so we're right about 50% at the 130 mark. If we get through this and somehow get through the poison, this will be a 120k run, which I did not anticipate, but I don't think we're going to get through the poison again, to be honest. Slightly late on Kigiri, which is very annoying. Kind of thought we were there. And there you can see as the fight goes on, because Arrogance's ults are less consistent, Twyla is always passing Arrogance round by round in each cycle. I think we're going to make it here. All going to come down to the end. So actually, I'm going to, after these ults, we're not going to ult again. We're going to save everybody. Miss Lust there. Oh no, we're running out of time. Come on, guys. Go, go. We're going to just make it. We're going to just make it. Go, go. Oh, we just missed it. All right. Could have timed it up better. But there you go. You can see. So a lot of mistimed DPS on that last round, but I didn't think we were making it that far, so I didn't plan it out properly. Also, some dead guys to start. We don't have to save. Why would we save? It's the freaking test server. Let's look at that DPS and look at Twyla. There you go. So 284 million. And again, this is like a perfectly pure comparison. Arrogance isn't a maxed out Eye of Mockery. Lust is an maxed out signature exclusive, whatever that's called. Same with Kigiri. Twyla's just in her Wailing Skull, and she's just winning. They're all A0. Every single unit I used was A0. Obviously, very, very good test server gear, but Twyla is just truly, truly a superstar. It's pretty sweet stuff. So I hope you guys are stoked. I hope this worked well for you as a guide, a nice introduction, a nice breakdown. I'm going to go edit this thing. Look forward to at least one more piece of Twyla content. I want to do a big Guild Boss 1 video, again, showing off her Awaken level 1 in comparison to Awaken level 0. And if you want to see like the proper run where this is like, you know, really perfectly executed stuff and we get those big numbers, just let me know. Thank you guys. I've been Fastidious. If you like my stuff, like it, subscribe to the channel, notification bell, share with your mother, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.
Fastidious.